Hello and welcome again to a further episode of The Bull. We're still on a break, but we still will bring you a extra special episode of more parliamentary questions. Okay, next question. Do MPs actually read the bills they pass?
Not all of them. So how kind of the bill cycle works in Parliament is that a bill will come, it will be either introduced as a private member's bill or by a political party or by a department. It will then go into public comment. It then gets tabled in the committee. It then goes back to public comment. When it is tabled in that committee, it is the responsibility of all MPs in that committee to read the bill. Do all MPs in a particular party or even in a particular cluster read the bill? No, very unlikely. Most backbench MPs could go an entire 5 years, an entire administration term without reading a single bill, especially now with the integration of AI. That is my biggest pet peeve ever. Is like, I know MPs.
So you can throw an entire bill into Google's notebook.
Yeah.
And then get a briefing document or an executive summary.
And to me, I think that is so scary.
Don't want to give MPs ideas.
Yes. No, but they do it already, especially the more tech-savvy younger MPs. And my heart always really goes out. I think the older MPs who have been there for like 30 years get a lot of it because they're like, you know what, Grandpa, give up your seat already. But you know what, they are so kind, and I think they put a lot of time and effort into actually doing their jobs correctly. Like, I know MPs who will handwrite the comments on their bill and then get like one of the staffers who work in their party to type that up into actual notes and submit it, because I know MPs who can't even connect to the projector if they need to do a presentation in committee. And so I do think that there is that level of endearment. I do think that there are certain MPs, especially when you are backbench in a larger party, that cuts corners. And specifically when we're looking at the ANC, the Democratic Alliance, MK, the three largest parties, there are people who do not actually understand. There's many MPs who don't understand parliamentary rules and procedure. That's also another issue. So I do think that there is a discrepancy between the top MPs and the top performing MPs and the kind of lower half, those who just go to committee to fill out an attendance sheet.
So what's in the role of parliamentary researchers and the content leads that help craft the conversation around how a discussion around the bill goes? Committee secretaries aren't just there taking notes, they're actually helping lead the conversation. Committees have legal advisors that will then advise on members. You may be going into murky constitutional territory here. It's my job to rein you back in. So there is the committee support for MPs.
So there are three key staffers who work on every single committee. So you get the committee secretary who handles all admin affairs for a particular committee, you get the committee researcher, and then you get the executive secretary. So the executive secretary almost works solely at the discretion of the chair, whatever the chair needs from an admin perspective, and will kind of organize with and liaise with all the MPs in the committee. And then the researcher's job, depending, and so there are different types of parliamentary committees. So you get really strong oversight committees, so think sports, arts and culture. Transport's also really another good example, is where their job is primarily to oversee what is happening in all these kind of other organs of state. Women, youth and persons with disabilities, also another strong oversight committee. SCOPA being the most famous oversight committee. Then you get a lot of policy heavy committees, so think international relations, think FFE. They deal with a lot of big policy issues. And then you get implementation committees, so think basic education, higher education, energy and electricity, also another implementation committee. So they're really looking at how specific things are run. So different researchers in different committees have different roles. The main job of the researcher is that, do your MPs understand what is being discussed? So whether that is they're getting a presentation by the SIU or the Auditor General, have you before read the notes? Do they understand? Do they have any questions? Do they have all the documents? Does the chairman understand what is going on? More specifically, you need to be able to answer any questions that the chairman has, and you need to know the ins and outs of that committee and those committees' needs, and to make sure that from a content perspective, you can explore all possible avenues.
I once sat in a committee, and it was 2 administrations ago. And the MP, it was a conversation around food security. And this MP was gravely concerned about people coming across the border from Lesotho and stealing people's sheep.
Really?
Which, if you were to go take a long shot, yes, it is probably food security, but it also
sheep.
Yes, because they thought food security is keeping goats and sheep safe, and not necessarily the
So this is also another problem in kind of like larger parties. I would probably assume that MP came from a large party, because in those larger parties, they will have maybe 3 to 4 researchers who oversee the research for that party's political perspective for all of their committees. So when you have a party that, in the larger parties, they usually only have their MPs sit on 1 or 2 committees, but if you have 50 MPs, we're easily looking at maybe almost 200 committees in total. And so the problem is with a smaller party, you have 1 researcher, 2 MPs, maybe 2, 3 researchers. Actually, I say probably as the best split out of all parties, because they have 3 people in their like research unit and they have 6 MPs. So that's a really good divide, I think, for like a larger party, because it's easier when you only have 2 people.
Yeah.
But I think that is the massive problem, because then those MPs are left alone to do kind of self-research, and unfortunately a lot of them don't have the skills or capabilities because they're politicians.
Let's go to another question. Hi Lester, hi Tara, love the show. Can we swap Parliament for a WhatsApp group? Might work better.
No. Stop. I also think, look, you would actually be surprised how many, I don't know if I should say this, how many political decisions get made over WhatsApp. Many corporate companies will use Slack, Microsoft Teams. They'll be very professional about it. Everything happens in WhatsApp. I mean, people will have caucus meetings via WhatsApp calls. Like, they don't even get on Zoom nowadays. Guys, we need to be in Parliament. I know a lot of people think that committee is useless. I know a lot of people think that it's a waste of time. It is not. It is extremely important. There is a lot of oversight work that is done, and Parliament plays a very important role when it comes to legislating and implementing what is currently going on in South Africa. I think that Parliament is really important. I mean, my favorite branch of government, very biasly, but no, it can't be simplified to a WhatsApp group. That isn't going to help anyone. We have another question here over on our socials. A listener of the podcast wants to know, why does Parliament not have a public participation office in the precinct? Why is there not a physical office for public participation?
What you have had over the last while is the securitization of Parliament. Yes, I know the economic wonks will say securitization has got nothing to do with security, but we've annexed words here, and we've come to accept that securitization is a word that could be used to say we've beefed up security. But since 10 years ago, and we've since 10 years since the anniversary of the Fees Must Fall movement, we've seen greater security and focus around Parliament. When Parliament as a democratic institution was envisioned, it was supposed to be a people's parliament, an open parliament that you could literally walk off from the street and walk to a committee. You go through some security checkpoints and they double check, in fact, if there is a committee, and sometimes you even get escorted to that committee room. But I think that there is a gap in which we have an open parliament and a parliament that people feel that they can contribute. And yes, the public participation processes of maybe some of the big policy and legislative issues does go around the country, but I think a lot can be done.
A lot of public participation now is online, and in the office's defense, Shem, I do have a lot of friends who work in public participation. They are really trying to reach the South African public, but it is difficult. I mean, with the National Assembly burning down and transitioning into the Dome now, a big point of contention was the fact that there was not a seating gallery for the public to come in and watch the National Assembly. And that was also something that they were trying to work out, and they're trying to fix now, as they are currently fixing the Dome, because we're using a hybrid model now. Parliament is accessible. I know that not a lot of people in their day-to-day, because parliamentary committees usually sit on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. I mean, guys, people are at work. Like, I think this idea that people they have the free time to come to Parliament just to come and see what's going on, it's not going to happen. But Parliament is available online. The benefit of having a more robust public participation overview in Parliament I personally don't think includes a physical office. I think there are a lot of public hearings that happen and they invite members of the public in, they invite key stakeholders. Oftentimes, if you do make a public comment on a bill and there is a public hearing, Parliament will extend an invite to you to say, you know what, you've made extensive comments on this bill, please come in and we would like to hear your perspective. So it's not that the Public Participation Office and the Public Participation Wing doesn't work. There are ways that it can be improved, but I don't think that a physical office is necessary. We have another question from a listener who would like to know, where are the best bathrooms in Parliament?
I once considered, and that person might know me, because I once considered...
What were you doing in the parliamentary bathrooms, Lester?
No, I spent enough time there to be in all buildings. And I once considered doing a photographic project on the loos of Parliament, of course within good taste, and also maybe to juxtapose the dire situation of public sanitation services. But because parts of Parliament are old buildings, we're talking about classic porcelain shanks, not these new development estate easy fittings of plastic seats and things like that. No, they are some excellent thrones in and around the parliamentary precinct. My favorite is found in a corridor between the NCOP and what was called the New Wing before it was burnt down.
I mean, look, the men's bathrooms and the women's bathrooms must be very different. I have never been inside any of the men's bathrooms in Parliament. The best bathrooms in general I've experienced is in Taine's. I mean, I'm not there. Like, the bathrooms in Taine's have couches in them. Like, there's couches.
That blew my mind. So Taine's is where the president's office is in the parliamentary precinct.
Couches, guys.
He's not the often, but when he is there, then you'll notice there are couches
in the Taine's
in
bathrooms.
the Taine's bathrooms. Also a good one is in the Good Hope chamber. I don't know about the women's because I've not been. But
Good Hope's okay.
But there's some good shanks there as well.
So look, I mean, I'm in Marks. The toilets in Marks, very hit or miss. Like,
it reminds you of, and when I worked on the 4th floor of the Marks building, it was like a sort of summer camp, bathroom locker type. That's what it felt like.
So my bathroom of choice, I use the disability bathroom on the 5th floor because it's quite roomy and spacious. Look, they've recently repainted the women's bathrooms, like the big women's bathrooms in Marks, and it's now grey on the inside. And it kind of gives like hospital ward, and I'm just not a fan. Also because the women's bathrooms in Marks on the 5th floor, there's this massive hole in the ceiling that they haven't filled. And so when it rains, there's this big bucket, and I'm just like, I feel like every time I walk into the bathroom, something's gonna fall on my head. But best bathroom in the Marks building is off of M515. Like right in the corner. Yeah.
There was a time when, before the fire and the destruction of the National Assembly chamber, is that I enjoyed long sittings, sittings of the House, not sittings in the bathroom. There was in the men's bathroom the urinal, but in the urinal had individual mirrors, but on the side or on the perimeter of these mirrors were little light bulbs.
Oh.
So it looked like a Hollywood dressing room.
That's cute.
So as you stood there, you're the star. And oftentimes you'd be there doing your business and then MP would stand.
That's also the other thing about like the male bathrooms.
Can I tell you the story of when Kgalema Motlanthe was president?
Yeah.
And it was at the World Economic Forum at the convention center. I was covering it, and I went into one of the CTICC bathrooms, and I went to stand at a urinal. And then the door swings open, bang, and man in suit and tie, dark suit and tie and shades, walks in. He does a scope around, and he sort of messages all clear. And a man then walks in.
Just for him to use the bathroom?
And it's Kgalema Motlanthe. Now there's a code amongst gentlemen.
Oh.
If there are several urinals, you go to the furthest one away from the man that's standing there. The president at the time decides to stand right next to me.
Oh my
And just two blokes.
That's
Two
crazy.
blokes doing their thing. Hello, Mr. President. Hello, how are you? Very good, thank you, Mr. President. Said, goodbye, Mr. President. Wash my hands, and I went on my way.
I think that this is a fitting final question. Is it true that Parliament is bugged?
Yes.
Yeah, no, Parliament's bugged. They do bug sweeps.
Yes, they do bug sweeps regularly.
About once a month. Have you ever been there when the dogs come in and they sniff for bombs?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I worked in the Marx building, and while it may be considered your office simply because this is where you
sit,
work,
yeah.
but maintenance, cleaning staff have access to your key to the room, so you can lock it. And there'd be a time where I've stepped into an office, not that I would think something untoward would have been happening, but simply because, someone was in here to clean, or someone was here to access a vent, or because you could sometimes see, it is an old building, so there was regular maintenance, and you could see, someone was in here, things have changed, there's a new grate on the aircon. But you went about your day. I wouldn't necessarily have left sensitive material in my office, or I generally wouldn't have sensitive conversations anywhere close to the parliamentary precinct.
I think that is a general rule of thumb. I mean, it's also noted like no staffer uses parliamentary Wi-Fi because they will bug your phone. They do bug sweeps really regularly. The issue with Marx being such an old building, I don't know if this ever happened when you were there, but you will be sitting there and in a week, the alarm will go off multiple times. I mean, I think it was 2 weeks ago we were sitting, the fire alarm went off like thrice, and like there was a large kerfuffle because we were like, guys, usually it only rings for like 5 minutes and then it stops. I kid you not, for 20 minutes, this alarm went off. MPs started like scurrying down, and then they make an announcement over the intercom and they were like, please don't evacuate the building. There's an issue in the basement, but we're sorting it out. And it's like, that makes me more scared. That makes me think that I should evacuate the building. But yeah, no, 90 plane definitely bugged.
Next time we talk, we'll talk about parliamentary ghosts.
Yep.
And we are back next week for another episode of The Bull. We're done with our break, we're done with our leave, and we'll bring you more on Parliament, politics, and a little bit of pop culture with Tara's Hot Take. Chat to you then. Bye.
Bye.